going to go ahead and get started. Mads, I think maybe we have a couple
Yep.
additional folks coming through, but we're not going to delay here. So, welcome everyone. We're very glad to have you today, and we're here to talk about the value of EnergyCAP in a survey that we recently done. But for anyone who is new to EnergyCAP, we are the expert-driven energy management, utility management platform. We've been here for more than 40 years. John's dad actually founded the company many moons ago. And again, for folks who don't know, we have a core platform that centralizes, benchmarks, audits, analyzes all the good things of your utility data. We also have solutions for GHG emissions reporting and accounting to manage your interval data and to do some of that for you with our bill capture services. My name is Sarah Uranowski. I am a mechanical engineer and 15-year veteran of the energy industry, and I serve as EnergyCAP's Senior Director of Product Marketing. And I'm very excited to be joined by two of my favorite people. And certainly for folks who are familiar with us, I'm very sure two of yours as well, Tom Diliberti and John. So Tom, can you introduce yourself and then hand to John?
Yeah, you betcha. So you can see by my credentials there, I'm a certified energy manager. And the main thing in terms of the webinar is I've been in the industry for 20 years, working with our clients and using EnergyCAP, and excited to share some anecdotal stories about things that I saw in the field, and also just real passionate about energy conservation, energy efficiency, and just want to see organizations become as efficient as they possibly can. So, John, let me throw it over to you.
Yeah, great. This webinar I'm really excited about. I've been on the sales leadership team for over 20 years, both helping the sales team, interact with new prospects and also with our accounts team interacting with customers. And the number one question you get in sales is, what's the ROI? What can I expect to save? How do I get value out of the software? We've been tackling that question for decades, and we answer it different ways because the industry evolves and moves, and people's perception of value changes. What we set out here was we had some stats, which was from a recent survey, and I had very personal issues with some of the stats and the results, just because again things change, and so Sarah and Tom, embarked on a mission with me to say, let's poll our customers, let's get some feedback, and try to make this as objective as possible. And here we go. We have some great results that we're happy to share with you. So a lot of fun in store for us over the next hour.
Yeah, we're really excited about this topic. And John, you actually did a great job of covering the summary of the survey, so thank you. Mads, we're gonna do the poll now. And what we want to know before we start, or as we're starting, the value of an energy management platform, or when you look for a new software, is the financial return the only thing that you really want? Like, give me all of that money, all that financial ROI. Or is it some of the other things, like more time back to spend on valuable activities, better cross-functional communication, more confidence, faster reporting, things like that? Is it both? Is it something else? When you're looking for a new solution, what matters to you?
Okay, Sarah, are you able to see the poll answers as a panel?
I'm not. Can you see them?
Okay, yes, I can. Let
Perfect.
me, some more are still trickling in, but 67% of people say both. I want it all.
Well, there you go. That's not a
Not surprising.
surprise. Yep. Also consistent with our findings. So as John said, we're going to go through the summary of the report, what it is, and there you go. There are those poll results for everyone. So 2/3 of you want it all. You want the world. Not surprising. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, we're going to separate out a little bit things for ESCOs and consultants, energy consultants, because their business model is a little bit unique. And then, of course, as always, we're going to have lots of time for questions. And again, for anyone who doesn't know EnergyCAP or is new to us, we're very proud to be here. We've been here for 4 decades. We've got over 1,000 customers now. We manage more than 26, or I'm sorry, across 26,000 users. and 400,000 buildings and counting. And John did a really good job of covering the study, the survey, what we did. Just so you know some more of the specifics, we had nearly 100 customers respond to it. We crunched some numbers. We only removed results if they were, for whatever reason, compromised, meaning there was an issue with the data, not with the responses themselves. Everything else stayed in, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We crunched some numbers to give you some averages and some most common responses, but otherwise we didn't manipulate the data. Everything that we're going to talk about is exactly what customers told us, which is how we want it, because we want you to have a good and honest understanding of the data when you're making this decision. And our participants in the survey actually were a pretty great representation of the industries that we serve. EnergyCAP is a pretty diverse, we have a pretty diverse client base. We serve everyone from large governments to small city governments, K through 12, Big Ten schools, all the way to community colleges, other utility and energy folks, manufacturing, restaurant chains, and everything in between. So we were really pleased to see that the study also had a very diverse representation, and it was across largely energy and sustainability managers, but also individual contributors, project managers, students and professors at these universities, executives, all across the board. And without further ado, let's talk about the results. And the first thing that we want to talk about is time savings. And Tom, I know you like this one because it's sometimes something that people don't think about when they think about savings. Everyone jumps to kind of, well, what's the financial return? And this is one of my favorites for that reason. And we split this into two. So you'll see bill processing activities. So that's that front end piece of getting your bill data kind of centralized into whether you're using Excel or a spreadsheet or something else right now, but the time to get all that data together. And then you have actual utility management analysis activities, which is where you're digging into that data, finding the actionable insights, and making decisions based on those. So we kind of intentionally split that in half. But Tom, I know this is one that you like a lot. So what do you think?
Yeah, let me just kind of offer some maybe for some perspective on this, and just for the webinar attendees. So I worked in the field with literally hundreds of organizations where I was there with them. I'll say day number one when they're starting to implement EnergyCAP. So working with the accounting teams and facility teams, and really recognizing how they started in different places as they began to implement the tool. Some were very organized organizations where they had a lot of great structure and they had data that was relatively easy to draw on to begin to populate EnergyCAP. And there were many organizations that were not at that level of organization, where they just things were in a state of disarray. And so what I find interesting, and I think the data tells a story that you'll see in the next 45 minutes, is with these organizations starting in different places, nearly all of them are getting benefits of time savings and finding more analytical information to steer their processes and such. And this just begins to be the tip of the iceberg with the time savings that you see. And like I say, it became so obvious to me when I was working with these organizations within the first few weeks, just some of the challenges they were going to face and need to overcome.
So this is time savings by department. And this was really interesting because I think you expect to see certainly energy management facilities, but there were some other pieces of this that were really interesting. So John and Tom, what do you think?
Yes, something that when I first saw this really stood out for me was, we do split up like accounting and finance to kind of be two different sides. There's funding, and then there's processing of financial information. But that also tends to be pretty high because we are, the implementation of EnergyCAP is designed to bring in more stakeholders. We generally start with energy management facilities, so not shocking to see that up top. But there's a lot of value on the accounting end for, bill processing workflow, approvals, engagement with accounting systems, and to streamline processes. And so to see that we communicate that there's some value there, but to actually see the proof that finance teams and accounting teams are realizing time savings, I think is rewarding for us, because there's a lot more, meaningful activities that those teams can be doing with their time than just processing and paying utility bills. And by the way, utility bills are awful. They're some of the worst bills I know that are out there. They're a lot of different shapes, sizes, formats, line items. They're very confusing. And so for those teams, they're even more confusing because they don't understand all those charges. So it's great to see the rewards of time savings there. Also in leadership. Leadership engagement is really important for a lot of different reasons, but to see that leadership for many organizations are engaged with the EnergyCAP data and with facility and energy management data, but also they're seeing some time savings so they can divert time to more meaningful activities is really rewarding as well.
Yeah, and just
Something. Oh, go ahead, Tom.
I was just going to piggyback on that. So, my role was working with the facilities teams in driving energy management activities. And so what I saw firsthand is once the data was brought into the software and people could see it and share it and discuss it, how that had a domino effect in helping the different departments within an organization save money and have clear communication. And so it's interesting because John gave great perspective on all of the bars of this bar chart. I kind of live the top couple bars, and it's just it was amazing to me to see over the course of I tended to work with clients for years of time, so there was this evolution over time to how it became integrated within each of their organizations, within each of the different departments, just to a greater extent, just over time.
And this is the kind of the only slides that we'll spend today on time savings. So the one thing that I will say about it that I thought was really interesting, when you have people answering the survey, we also know, right, which one of these areas they're coming from, whether they're energy or facilities, if they're executive leadership. But I thought it was really cool to see individuals respond that they know that the other departments are also getting time savings, right? So this wasn't a pick one, this was a choose all. So we had folks from sustainability saying, I know I'm getting time savings, but finances as well, which kind of speaks to some of that like cross collaboration and being more in sync with what other departments and other folks are doing. Once you have a single source of truth, you have more line of sight to where others are still struggling and where they're doing better. And I thought that was just kind of an interesting outcome of this question. So let's talk about the thing that everybody wants to talk about, which is some of the financial savings and the financial impact. So 88%, so nearly 9 in 10 of customers who responded to the survey said that they are saving money on their utility bills as a result of EnergyCAP's audits and flags. So EnergyCAP coming in and identifying issues, overcharges, billing errors, things like that, that are sort of that low-hanging fruit that they can act on to save money pretty quickly and pretty simply. And as you can see from the chart below, most of the folks are right in that 1 to 3% of their overall utility bill annual cost, that savings from those flagged issues and errors. When you do the actual math, it's 3% is the average that you see, with 1 in 3 saving more than 3%, and in fact 1 in 6 saving more than 5%, which is really cool. So, John, I know this, and Tom, this is really pretty consistent with your experience, and I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, one of the studies that the sales team for a number of years now have pointed to, the U.S. Department of Energy put out a kind of similar survey, different questions. But what they were getting at was if you implement an EMIS, an energy management information system, where are the areas you can save and what are the expected savings? And what I thought was, one of the take homes from that study was in general, like out there. So this is again, the Department of Energy, for bill related items, the industry average or expectation would be 1 to 3%. And what we're seeing with our customers is generally most of them are closer to the 3%, so maybe less of the 1. So that's fantastic, but still very realistic, expectation for 1 to 3% on bill related items. Now, part of what we're getting at here is what can EnergyCAP take credit for that are spotting bill related problems, and what are some other areas that EnergyCAP can help in spotting problems, inefficient facilities and just other types of problems. So we'll get to that in the survey, but very specifically here, it's what type of credit can EnergyCAP take from spotting billing related issues. And so when you look at, if you can guarantee almost, a 3% year over year savings, I mean, that's pretty substantial. And I think most organizations would want to see that. And so we're proving out that, bill related issues are being realized, and savings by customers.
Yeah, for me, when I was supporting clients, some were small where they might have 100 meters they were tracking in the software. Others might have thousands of meters. And for me, it was just a probability thing. The larger the organization, I just would knew with near certainty that we were going to find something. Do you know what I mean? So just the volume tells a story here. And I also saw geographically around the areas that some of the utility companies were just better at distributing bills they were accurate and right and had fewer errors, and many of the companies around the country just struggle to do that. Just I think sheer volume and the changes that take place over time. So at the end of the day, this savings is very real, and you just need the tools. You need the software to have the vision into what these opportunities are, and then you gotta follow up, because as I say, the opportunities to save are real.
So, John, kind of as you had said, there's that initial and ongoing low-hanging fruit of, okay, what's going on with your utility bills? Have they double charged or overcharged? Are there errors in the rates? Those kinds of things, which make up that 3%. And there's a whole world beyond that of other things. And when we ask the question of, does EnergyCAP help you identify the energy conservation measures, the ECMs, and cost avoidance opportunities that can help you save beyond billing issues and errors? For 79% of our customers, the answer there was yes. And nearly half, 47%, actually are seeing six-figure annual savings thanks to the energy conservation measures that EnergyCAP is helping them to identify. And they are executing, 10% are seeing savings of more than $1 million annually for the same reason. And we actually took this a step further. So we asked, are you seeing this? And then, what is the value of that? When you take that and you put it against the total budget of those customers' utility bills, then the total savings is it's 4.6%. I think we have it right here as 5%, just for rounding purposes, but it's 5% of annual utility spend. So if you're saving on average 3% on those billing issues and errors, you're saving an additional 5% on energy conservation measures. And John, I really like your perspective on this, because it's about the partnership with the software.
Yeah, well, so one of the issues that I had originally was we want to give credit where it's due. Now, a lot of our customers are using EnergyCAP to run cost avoidance calculations, to calculate, avoided savings, avoided cost, therefore, like calculating savings. The way that I think we looked at it in this survey is, okay, finding bill problems, great. We want credit for that because EnergyCAP was the catalyst to spot the savings. So we're looking at, 3%. Now, EnergyCAP is not implementing ECMs. Like, let's be fair there. What we're trying to do in EnergyCAP is to spot opportunities to implement an ECM, and then spot the savings or, avoided costs due to implementing those ECMs, which is credit to you, the energy manager, or you, the user, by using EnergyCAP to properly identify, good fit buildings, and then tracking the savings. And so we can't really take credit for the savings because you did the work, but what we want to take credit for is finding those opportunities. So that's what we set out for here. And the overwhelming response was, roughly 80% of customers are using it to at least identify ECMs. What those ECMs are, a lot of different things, right? Like BAS control changes, potential, capital projects and equipment swap outs, just all different types of things. But we can't take credit for that. But we can take credit for finding opportunities, which is an important piece of what we're trying to accomplish in EnergyCAP. And there's a lot in the development pipeline to help you find more of these, real potential for savings. And so that's what we're focused on.
Yeah, and just echoing that is, I think what I ran into is that clients using spreadsheets and other tools to understand their data just didn't have the visibility into understanding the impact that these ECMs could have in their organization. And what EnergyCAP has helped them to do is to make it clear and easier to identify. And John, like you say, at the end of the day, you still got to implement it. Nothing changes unless something changes. So hopefully EnergyCAP, and it seems that, the evidence here, the statistics are showing that it has helped people take steps forward with that and ultimately leverage opportunities to save, which is fantastic.
And Tom, I know you had done some deep diving just into our own database and into the sort of massive amount of information that EnergyCAP holds, and had taken a look at when customers do put in complete information about these ECMs, which you can do in EnergyCAP. You can track it. You can track your EUI before and after. There's great tools in there to have a good understanding of the impact that that's making. I know that one of the largest, the most impactful were recommissioning. And there were some others that were kind of the big hitters. But when you did that additional research, what did you
Yeah.
find that jived with your experience?
Yeah, Sarah, you nailed it. I mean, it was the retro commissioning, it was the building automation implementations or lighting retrofits. So I'll say it's the big things that many people see as the lower hanging fruit in terms of making efficiency improvements and really trying to make changes in their facilities. So there's no really surprise in the data other than the financial impact that comes as a result. Where if people are going into each of those initiatives or planning those projects and they're uncertain in terms of what the impact is going to be, EnergyCAP has helped organizations really capture that information and document it and see it. And hopefully it has helped them to feel confident in future projects they pursue that they really are going to get the return on the investment made in each of those capital projects they pursued.
So I know that we are, and we're not done with the topic of savings, but I think it's really important to not just only talk about kind of the financial piece, because there are lots of other reasons that not only do customers come to EnergyCAP, but folks are looking for better and different ways to manage their energy and utilities in general. And I want to talk about some of those as well, starting with confidence and accuracy, which are, I think, issues, John, probably you hear even more than Tom and I, as folks are coming in. The bigger and bigger that you grow, which is what you want to do, it's harder and harder to accurately manage your data on spreadsheets and then have confidence in the answers that you're giving. That's also actually a big topic about AI, right? If you're using AI tools, which I know many of us are, or certainly we're hearing about them, but if the data underneath still isn't accurate and you're not confident in it, then you're just getting AI answers to more and more incorrect things. So one thing that we really wanted to ask our customers about was improved visibility into spending and other parts of your utility data, and also your confidence in that data. And honestly, there's some really cool statistics in here, but this is one of my most favorites, is that everyone who responded, and as John said, we don't have perfect responses across the board, and that's okay. We don't want them. I think it would be disingenuous to have them. So this one is really special to me that we had every person who responded to the survey, some of which had some negative things to say and some transparent things to say, consistently said that they have improved visibility into their spend and their utility data. I think that's really unique, and I think it's really important. I think it's as important as any of the financial pieces as well. And then similarly with improved confidence in that data, 98%. And I included below here, this is kind of the breakdown for that improved visibility, but it was very similar between the two. So you can kind of understand how we got there of, can you rate it a 1 out of 5, meaning 0 to 100, so to speak, for I'm not seeing any improvement all the way to I've seen exceptional improvement. And sort of as we would hope, I mean, we would want everyone to be a 5, but you see kind of a nice even split between solid improvement, very good, and excellent. And then, of course, again, there are still some folks who are like, yeah, they could do better, which is perfectly fine and exactly what we want, the kind of feedback that we want to get. But this is to demonstrate that you can kind of see it's that sort of even split. So what do you guys think?
Rob, love it. Garbage in, garbage out. Yes, that is such a good saying in the world of software. 100%. Appreciate that comment. I have to laugh because I've been hearing that for years, and so it sits really well. But good to see that EnergyCAP has instilled more confidence and accuracy for all of our customers across the board. Like that's the goal of it. One centralized, consolidated database. That's the complete picture of energy and sustainability data that you can then confidently report on, and we're seeing that.
Yeah, and what I like about this is it's beginning to tell the story that we're going to get to about expectation meeting client expectations. The fact that there's just so many people that say there's solid, very good, or exceptional improvement, I think is just beginning to tell the story. Just people are happy. They're getting what they want to get out of the software.
And Tom, I'm going to let you go through this one because I think in the field, these are things that you have run into a lot. But obviously, the operational benefits, as we talk about some of the things that aren't finances, but would love to have you kind of walk through this slide and talk to us about it.
Yeah, I alluded to it maybe a couple times already, but as I was implementing with clients in the software, it was just amazing to see how the software would get into an organization. It would begin to permeate. An energy manager might share it, with the finance department or vice versa, and then it goes to different leadership and in facilities or the leader of the organization, whether they be a CEO or superintendent or such. But it just seemed to find its way throughout the organization because people saw value in just looking at the list here that you'd have faster and more accurate reporting. So many individuals within an organization could get the data they wanted or they needed just by using the software and running reports, or they could identify those issues, or they could do a better, more thorough job with budgeting. And so each of these items in this list I think, are very powerful. If you take the time to read them all, in the fact that the software can accommodate all these things, I think is really a true testament to the value of what it brings.
I'd like to present a teaser for this slide. So for all of you listening, this is a bit of a teaser, and our head of development would probably kill me for mentioning this because I'm stealing some thunder for our Catalyst event next month. However, it's very topical that if you look at this list, there's a number of items that customers are saying are operational benefits: faster issue identification. Even at the bottom one, better prioritization of projects and issues. So these are areas that customers are already seeing value. We actually want to do more in these areas to make it even more organized and be more of a watchdog of your data to spot more problems faster and help you prioritize things a lot more. So we're doing a lot of at least research right now on how to enhance those capabilities because, okay, we talked about we have good, accurate data in the database. Now, how do we give you your time back so you're not, you don't have to know where to go in the app and where to find things? How about the app just tells you where to go and puts those in prioritized lists. So think of it that way. So helping even more to save time and to find more problems for you, so then you can prioritize your efforts to go to leadership to get more funding, to do ECMs and all those kinds of things. So that's really where we're headed. But this slide helps to kind of show that you all find value in these areas, but we want to accelerate it, even more for you. So those are some of the things we are doing, and a lot more exciting things to be shared next month in Orlando at Catalyst. So shameless plug on that event.
Speaking of, if anyone here at or listening to this after the fact wants to talk more about those things, so John is exactly right that we are talking both internally, but we also want to talk to you about the things that are important that you'd like to see automated. We have some things in the work that we would give even more special sneak previews to one-on-one if you'd like to do that. So if you're interested in the super secret special sauce that we're cooking right now, don't hesitate, reach out to me or Tom or John, anyone on your customer team, and we'd actually be really excited to show you more specifically some of that stuff and get your feedback and your take. Because to John's point, we want this to be what's most helpful and most useful for you as we look at automating even more and making some of these insights even easier. So shameless plug also as your resident product marketer for me. Risk reduction. I really like this. Tom, what do you think? John also, what do you guys think about this? I think risk is a big one, especially for our finance folks. So also it might seem like a quiet statistic, but it's also one of my favorites.
Yeah, I'll go first. I think sometimes when people make the investment in EnergyCAP, they don't recognize how it's going to help them mitigate risk. Again, looking at the chart down below and reading the words in the axis there, utility bill errors. Many organizations don't even recognize how many utility bill errors are occurring. So the software has helped expose those. As we talked, there's opportunities to save, but it's the spreadsheet dependence, it's the audit readiness, and the other things in the list there. It doesn't dawn on people the true benefit of what the software can bring until they have it, they're utilizing it, they see that they really now are managing their risk in a much better way.
Yeah, it's a lot of organizations, depend on spreadsheets, depend on data in various systems, and they pull it together for reporting. And so the audit trail, the auditability, even users, like I remember a case that happened recently where a user split a bunch of bills for an organization, and then that got passed to an accounting system, and then they posted it, and it like kind of created an internal mess. And they were like, what happened here? But they could look at the audit trail to pin it back to who did it. And it really was just a lack of training for a user, and also maybe too many user permissions for some users. But the point being, there's some auditability, there's an audit trail. Even in that case, that's more of a process that occurred that they could audit. But if you have a spreadsheet and someone makes a change and there's no like audit trail of who made that change, and now you're using it for reporting, I mean, that really runs into a lot of problems. So I think to mitigate risk, having auditability, user logging in various areas, standardization in where you're reporting, all those things are incredibly helpful. And again, time savings, if you're chasing down problems and, there's an error and where did it come from and where's it at, who did it, what's the source of it, like that's a whole rabbit trail of time right there that gets wasted and you can't get back. So.
One that was of interest to me, and honestly, I was a little surprised to see it so high on the survey, pleasantly surprised, was the lost institutional knowledge. So, like John, I would argue that you are a keeper of a great deal of EnergyCAP tribal knowledge. You are a vault of valuable information for us. And Tom, I'm sure in the field you saw many, whether it was facility managers or energy managers who were kind of a living encyclopedia of all the really important things. And there's a lack of those positions and folks going into those positions. And as older folks retire, there's risk associated with that knowledge, which is critical, being lost. And I love that people are using EnergyCAP as a tool to be an additional repository for that information and use that to mitigate some of that risk.
We've had some energy managers that have purchased EnergyCAP at the tail end of their careers, knowing that they're retiring in a year or 2 years, strictly so they could put all of their tribal knowledge into a system and a workflow for their work so they could pass that down as kind of a legacy to their career. And that's happened numerous times. It's kind of amazing. And Tom, I know you've worked with some older energy managers, for some school districts that were nearing the end of their career and had a passion for energy reduction, and kind of the same boat where, need to pass the data in a system and a good workflow on to others so then they can carry the torch.
Absolutely. It's interesting you say that because it was actually day number one in my training of individuals, and I've trained literally hundreds of energy managers. It was like you need to use the tool to document everything that's going on to establish that over a period of time. You need the historical bills, you need the graphs, the charts, the data to do analysis, but you also need it as a repository for that information because most energy managers, live through that part of their professional cycle and they transition into something different and somebody may follow them. But it just becomes a vault of information that gives an organization the chance to sustain the work efforts that have gone in and maintain savings and really have a good system and workflow in place. So it's, as you said, just a wonderful way to kind of keep all of that in one spot and organized.
So we'll take a short break from our regularly scheduled programming and talk a little bit about ESCOs here because energy consultants and companies that are using EnergyCAP to serve their customers are a little bit different of a use case than obviously our direct customers. So we wanted to pull some of those insights out specifically so that ESCOs can understand kind of the benefits that their peers are getting from EnergyCAP and what their honest assessment is. And Melanie, I know you're also on this call. Love you. Thank you very much for letting us use this quote, which was from the survey. And also, Melanie will be with us next month and speaking. She's amazing. So if you want to spend time with one of the most incredible, competent consultants that I have ever met in energy in my life, then Mel will also be with us next month at Catalyst. But wanted to just briefly touch on these results are not substantially different from the results of our direct customers, but if there are folks from ESCOs and consultants here, please know that we have pulled some specific data. We are very prepared to talk to you about the specific ways that you work with EnergyCAP, which is a little bit different than some of our direct customers. But again, similar to what others are reporting, 8 and 10 say that we are or at least meeting or exceeding their expectations, which is wonderful. 3 and 4 let us know that we are helping them identify utility billing errors that they can then pass on as savings and actionable items to their customers or address themselves. And that we're also helping them identify ECMs at actually a slightly higher rate than our direct customers, which was pretty neat. And then some of the top benefits that they are reporting, or ESCOs are reporting, are more accurate reporting, faster issue identification, and then improved energy project M&V. This is a little bit different than those operational benefits that we talked about before. I think that makes sense because the use case and what you need to get out of EnergyCAP is a little bit different.
I work really heavily with ESCOs and partners, and the way that I like to look at their use of EnergyCAP is it's their CRM of energy information for their customers. So basically, they're tracking their customers through the lens of EnergyCAP, and really a lot of value streams in there, but a lot of it is everything's built. They don't have to, build, things all the time uniquely for customers. They can share dashboards and push out reports and use M&V and all those kinds of things. So they have a lot of time savings by letting EnergyCAP be an embedded technology that's allowing them to do more for customers and to do, if they need to do customizations, they don't have to do it on everything. It's just on very unique scenarios for customers. So I think a huge value that we see in ESCOs and partners that EnergyCAP provides.
Yeah, the only thing I think I'd piggyback on that is I really like the M&V module that's contained within EnergyCAP, and I think the ESCOs tend to get the most out of that. But if you've seen me now in other webinars, I tend to promote our M&V module and calculations of cost avoidance because I think there's huge benefits to all organizations. And so I think some just don't even realize the power that's there at their fingertips and just want to continue to educate and inform so people can get even more value out of EnergyCAP.
M&V is a cause very close to Tom's heart.
Amen.
So we're going to circle back to some of the financial value again. And I really like this slide because, and this statistic, because this is sort of everything all in. So we asked about when you add up the labor savings, right, from your time savings, the utility cost that you're saving, the cost that you're avoiding, your reporting efficiencies, other benefits, when you're kind of grouping all of those together, what would you say the financial value of EnergyCAP is? And for 94% of customers, they are getting all-in financial value out of EnergyCAP, which is great. Half, 49%, at least six figures, at least $100,000 annually of financial value. For just under a third, it's 250, so $250,000 annually. And just under 10%, 9% are seeing $1 million annually, which is really cool. So we took this we took this data, this what their all-in value was, and also the annual cost of the software. So what is the value you're getting out of it, and what's the cost that you're paying for it? And we trued those two up. And what we found was that EnergyCAP delivers 3 times 3.04, if we're being exact, but 3 times the value of the cost of the software. So I'm sorry, 3 times the value of the cost of the software. So your value is 3 times higher than the cost that you're paying for the average customer, which is really special. And actually, when John, this was your idea originally to do that math, and I'm like doing it furiously while we're on a call and we're looking at these results together. And it was a little bit magical to come to that realization that it was so high. So that was something that was really special. But John, this is one that I know you are very familiar with, and probably more than Tom and I, as you talk about the value and why people come to us.
Yeah, getting back to the question that we get asked is like, what's the ROI of EnergyCAP? ROI is very difficult to explain because the answer normally is, well, it depends, right? Are we identifying ECMs, but we can't get credit for the savings calculated as part of the ECM? But if we've identified it, how do we get credit for it? Well, it's hard to value that. If we find billing errors, maybe a little bit easier. So we're saying, okay, there's the 1 to 3%. Plus, if you do interval data analysis and things and can start making changes in buildings and schedules and things, well, but if you're doing that, EnergyCAP spotting it, do we get credit for the ROI? Do you? It's really hard to pinpoint the exact, what I would say, money back in your pocket. Because also the concept of cost avoidance, you're avoiding unnecessary costs. You're not necessarily getting money back in your pocket per se. So again, ROI is very difficult in our field to justify. Value, on the other hand, I love this because it's, well, what is the value? What are customers saying when we are using EnergyCAP and we've implemented it, kind of all things considered, if we had to get a new quote for services, what do we think really we would, what do we think we should be paying, more or less for EnergyCAP? Now, we're not going to go there. Like, that's not where we're trying to get. But like what customers were saying is that if more or less, they should be paying 3 times because they're getting 3 times the value. I just find that a good way to look at it because we're delivering value, but they're getting three times as much as what they would expect, that is just a feel good number to me. Because again, ROI is just a very tricky thing to put a number around, because there's a lot of variables. I'm glad I'm not in the ESCO business and the shared savings model, because I think I'd be bad at that. But I do like, being able to communicate that customers in general, all things considered, look at the value that they're paying as being three times that. So, it's just a fun way to look at it.
Yeah, I think if we tie this back to the poll question that we began the webinar with, where people wanted to see more than just financial return, they wanted value, they wanted both. And I think this statistic right here summarizes it as cleanly as you can, that ultimately people are seeing significant value behind their expenditure for the software, which is awesome.
So I'm actually going to skip this slide and move on to this slide, and then we'll go back because, John, I think you said something really important, which is it can be tough for us to say strictly financially, dollar for dollar, the exact moment that you will have earned back, what you pay for EnergyCAP. ROI is tricky that way. It also means different things to different people. And when we had done this survey originally a couple of years ago, we just outright asked the question, at what point did you reach ROI? And that's one of the reasons John wasn't in love with that survey, was because we were trying to be really exact about it when it's really a very personal thing. So it's hard to be exact about it. So this time instead, what we asked is whether we are meeting your expectations of ROI or not. And so whatever ROI means to you as our customer, have we met that expectation for you? And for 94% of our customers, we have. And, again, we're not perfect, and we're not trying to present ourselves as perfect. And there's a couple of folks who said, actually, you haven't. And that's also a really good signal to us to talk to them and dig into why and see if we can't remedy that. But overall, I am really, really pleased with this number, knowing that for 94% of people, we have met or exceeded what their expectations for ROI of EnergyCAP was.
Yeah,
ROI
Sarah,
and value. Yeah.
yeah. Sarah, to me, this is the proverbial mic drop moment. I think that it just kind of like says, this, if you're looking for a solution after having it for a year, 2 years, 5 years, if you're feeling good about it, you've got the investment, your own, however you've assessed it, if it's met your expectations, then I would like to think everybody's happy with what we've done to help them.
Yeah. I've talked to customers that have said, hey, we expected to find more billing problems and errors there, and we didn't. However, you did spot X, Y, and Z, right? And another unintended thing is, again, we saved a bunch of time. We're spending 20 hours less per week, doing these types of activities. And we didn't really think that would be the case, but so maybe they didn't find billing errors or some other type of glaring error, which other customers have found. Great if you found it, maybe before EnergyCAP, you were doing a good job of, auditing bills and looking at them. Who knows? But still, customers are saying, through tracking their data in a really robust way, they are, the system is meeting or exceeding expectations just holistically. I think that's really valuable, at least for us. We know we're doing the right things, developing and supporting you all, and we're going to continue to get even more feedback so we can get this to 100%. But at least is reassuring that there's a ton of value here, and what we're doing is hitting the mark.
So the reason I wanted to do that one and then go back to this one, so we also asked about, again, that specific piece of ROI that is savings, is cost savings, and kind of how and when you're seeing cost savings. And we still have a couple more slides, so I won't go too into the nitty-gritty on this one. But for most folks, for 86% of customers, they are saving year over year, right? And most of them, almost half, it's that kind of consistent, moderate year over year. I think that harkens back really clearly to that solid 3%, right? or that 5%, that it's just that solid year over year. I know I'm going to find some savings there. But that means for 80, or I'm sorry, for 14% of customers that they are not reporting specifically cost savings. And, the question that then begs is, does that mean that they're not getting value, or that, they're not finding benefit from EnergyCAP? And John and Tom, I know that you both have obviously, strong opinions about that, and I'd really like to talk about that point.
Well, we actually have a good slide on it coming up.
Yes, we
Just
do.
kind of the intended versus actual, but certainly customers are receiving year over year savings. We have cases where customers are in the double-digit % savings. It's all in how you implement, how you plan to use it. Digging in and trying to find savings. Generally the customers that are more engaged in it and like roll up their sleeves and get their hands dirty with data tend to uncover more. And so some of it's the time that you put into it and how much savings can be realized.
What I would say,
Um,
Sarah, is that if since the number on this slide, 14% have not seen consistent savings yet, if that was the only way people were looking at EnergyCAP, then I would think the slide we just did a minute ago on their meeting expectations, we would also see that 14% were not having their expectations met.
exactly.
So the fact that those two numbers are out of sync, meaning that even though this is saying 14% are not seeing consistent savings, it was 94% of the people are saying that their expectations are being met. So to me, it's just understanding the context of that and recognize that every organization is different and they see value in different things. And so I think the true measure is more just the expectations and how they see it for themselves.
And Tom, on that note, will you walk us through this slide?
Absolutely. This is one that I'm most excited about. And I just want to draw people's attention to the key, the legend at the bottom. So if you look at the color, that's more the purple color. It says the reason for purchasing EnergyCAP. So the lower bar of the two bars that run parallel represents the reasons why people bought EnergyCAP. So the first one, using that as an example, is many people buy EnergyCAP because they want to centralize and better manage their utility data. But what we try to capture in this graphic and with our survey is, okay, you bought it for one reason, but the pure yellow bar is what are the benefits you're receiving now that you're using it? And so notice the yellow bar surpasses the purple bar, and not just for the very first one on the list, but for every single category that's being represented here. Or to summarize that in this simple statement is people buy EnergyCAP for a lot of different reasons, but once they start using it, across the board, they're finding more and more ways to utilize it and get benefit from it, which I think maybe this is truly the mic drop moment. But this is just powerful information. And because I lived this, I saw this in the field, and that's why I'm so excited to share this one. I just think it's a great graphic.
John, what do you think? This goes to kind of what you said before about the reasons that people buy EnergyCAP in the first place, which may or may not have anything to do with finances at all, even in the beginning. And I think this is kind of a good way to show that, because if you notice, to save cost on utility bills is actually the middle of the list. It's not at the top. So I think that really speaks to that prior slide. But as someone who talks to a lot of different prospects and customers, what do you think?
Yeah, again, it's the lot of reasons why you buy, but a lot of value received from the purchase that isn't always an ROI. It's a lot of different reasons, and it's great to see customers continue to explore features, to build out more and more capabilities, to focus on more and more areas. I mean, we see that all the time. We have an Eco Champions community where, customers they can get continued education, but also engage with others. And we get great questions in there and people exploring new modules and features. And so I think it's hey, we're scratching the surface. What else can we be doing, and how do we drive more into deeper and deeper into savings and ROI and value? And this survey really shows that, and that's great. And it challenge on us to continue to keep more and more features coming, to get value from customers. And the energy and sustainability landscape continues to change, and so we're doing our best to keep up with it. But we wouldn't be here without our customers' engagement and feedback. So really important.
So Mads, that kind of covers everything about the survey. I want to pause. I know we have a couple of minutes left to see if any questions have come in.
Let me double check. I'm not seeing anything in the Q&A. I'm not seeing any in the chat right now. Does anyone have any questions that they want to put in the Q&A or chat?
And
I think many of you were some of our survey participants. So if any of you did participate in the survey, really appreciate that. It's incredibly valuable feedback. Again, I think Sarah, Tom, Madigan, and I all found the results really interesting and a lot of fun to see the areas you're saving and perceive value and all those kinds of things that we covered.
absolutely. Tom, any closing thoughts from you? I know one of your big things is building an energy culture. And I love that EnergyCAP is a part of that, but obviously we're not the only part of that. So any words of advice or closing words about doing that?
Yeah, Sarah, what's on the screen right now, just what I feel passionately about, what I think as a business, as a company, feel passionate about is we want our customers just to get the most value of EnergyCAP. And we realize the software is a tool, and we want to help organizations build cultures and make sure they have the tools and the features in order to capture savings. And what's on the screen here are just our recommendations for how to facilitate that and drive more and more savings. Because at the end of the day, we want to meet people's expectations. And we know the software can only do so much. Customers have to use the software and implement change in order to improve their organizations.
And I want to give a big shout out, as John did, to the folks like Pepperdine, Melanie at iMake, thank you, and others who did fill out the survey. Several of them were nice enough to give us permission to use their results, which we really appreciate. And I know that we talked a lot sort of about EnergyCAP and our experiences, but please know that behind all of those are the very specific words of our customers that we take to heart, we take very seriously, and some of the hard numbers that they have given us, which are available. And if you have questions about your specific use case, or if you're considering EnergyCAP as a tool, please know that we have specific customer stories that we can also share with you along with these results. So thank you very much to those folks. And I know that Daniela and Madigan beat us to the punch and have already put our Eco Champions community, which is free. It's free to join. It's chock full of great information, into the chat. We have open office hours. We have Ask Tom Anything. We should definitely do an Ask John Anything coming up. And please, if you haven't signed up for Catalyst and you want to learn even more, join us in Florida. We're going to be there all week between EnergyCAP's Catalyst and then going right into AEE World, where you will also see Tom, John, and myself, and Mads. So actually everyone on this panel will be joining you there. And do not miss Tom's next part of his energy strategy series, which is even more on M&V, which we've covered a little bit here today. If you want to dive deeper, we're going to do that next week. And I think that's it. Madigan, any questions or closing comments? Or are we good to go?
I think we are good to go. I think you have
Awesome.
you have one more poll, I believe.
Yeah, we can always, yeah, Mads, you can go ahead and deploy that poll. If anyone's not a customer and has come here to learn about EnergyCAP, if you would like us to reach out to you and chat with us more in depth, please feel free to use the poll and we will be glad to reach out. Otherwise, thank you all very much.
Yes, thank you. And
Thanks, everyone.
As a reminder, this will be recorded and posted on EnergyCAP's website under resources.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks.